Then, in the last lesson, what we covered was or let me just put this into the right mode first. We covered the distance formula, which allows us to find the distance between any 2 points on the Cartesian plane. And we also covered the midpoint formula. And so just to remind you what that looks like, the distance formula between 2 points is kind of like Pythagoras. And then the first part, it has the difference in the x values. And then the second part is the difference in the y values. And that's how we find the distance between any 2 points on the Cartesian plane. If we want the midpoints between 2 points on the Cartesian plane, we can just use this formula, which is really just adding the two x's, dividing by 2, adding two y values together, and dividing by 2. And that was what we spoke about in the last lesson. Give me a score out of 10 as to how you're feeling about these two tools that we use in analytical geometry. So 10 is like perfect understanding. 0 is no understanding. 5 would be like sort of understanding, but still need a bit of help. How are you feeling about those two tools? Put your number in the chat so I know how you are feeling about these two skills and how quickly I can go when I use them, etc. Okay. Thanks, Silikani. Thanks, Simtanda. Everyone else, how are you feeling? How are you feeling about this stuff? Okay, thanks, Ange. So it seems like we're mostly pretty comfortable. So I want to move on. Today is going to be about gradient and straight lines. And so the important formula for gradient is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, or we sometimes say it is change in y over change in x, or we can say it is rise over run. Now, there's two different ways. Well, first of all, let's talk about what gradient actually is. What does it mean for something to have a gradient? Well, I think you would have covered this in grade 9 and 10, but we think of this being a straight line with a positive gradient, and we think of this line being a straight line with a negative gradient because it's going down. When we go to the right, it's going down, whereas the green one goes up. Now, in grade 9, one of the ways of getting the gradient is just to take 2 points on a line and just go, how much do I go across? How much do I go up by? So, for example, the green gradient here, it's a positive gradient. And since it's gone across by 2, the change in x is 2, the change in y is 3, we say that the gradient of the green line is positive 1.5. So that would be if we were just counting blocks. If we look at the red one, it looks to me like 2 points that would be useful for the red one would be these 2 points here and here. And for this, I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 down, and I go 2 across. And so the gradient of the red line here would be negative, but it would be negative 5 over 2. And so we can see that that red line is a bit steeper. It's going down faster than the green one, which makes sense because this is 3 over 2, or in like a mixed number, this would just be 1.5. Whereas this one is minus 2.5. So that is the basics of the gradient formula. Now, I think most of you will be comfortable with this from grade 9 and 10, but not necessarily. So let's do some basic questions around gradient. So sometimes gradient is also called slope. What is the gradient or slope of this line segment? I'll highlight the 2 endpoints to make life a bit easier. Put your answer in the chat. Put your answer in the chat. What is the gradient in the case of this straight line? Is it A, B, C, or D? What do we think? 1, 2, 3, 4 across. 1. So which option should we choose? It looks to me like it should be a positive gradient because it's going up and to the right. So if I go to the right, it's an increasing straight line. So it's positive. And on the top is the change in y. So that would be the change in y is 2, but the change in x is 4. So 2 over 4, or I could say a half. I think the gradient here is a half. Is there an option for a half? Yes, it is C. Now that might have caught some of you by surprise, but if you look at the graph, let's have a look here. I need to go across by 2 to go up by 1. Across by 2 to go up by 1. So that's why the gradient is a half, because the change in x is 2, the change in y is 1 if you're going up on the straight line. Give me a thumbs up if you understand that. And I'm not seeing a lot of answers in the chat, so I want to know, did you get that? Or must I slow down and re-explain it? Okay, Amelia, I can see your hands up. Anybody else? How are we feeling about that question? Well, you can show me how well you understand it. The next one, what is the gradient or the slope of this line segment? Now, if I see you understand it, I will speed up a bit, but I just want to check you do understand gradient really well. It's really important for this section. What is the gradient or the slope of this line segment? Is it A, B, C, or D? You can either count blocks. Well, in this case, probably counting blocks is easier. Yeah. So they're the two endpoints. What do we think? Which of the 4 options is correct? Which of the 4 options is correct? Okay, so if I'm going to go, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 down, 2, 3 across. Now it's negative because it's going to the right, it's going down, so it's negative 5 over 3, but there's no negative 5 over 3, but of course, we can rewrite this. Oh, I almost made a mistake. It's not D. It's not D. What's the correct answer? Be careful. What's the correct answer here? I almost fell into the trap myself. It's not D. Okay, so because the gradient is negative, and we can see it's negative, look at it, it's going down. It's like a downhill gradient. So the correct answer is going to be A. Okay, nice, Silikani, Simtanda Amelia, that's great. What is the gradient of this line segment? And I think this one is a bit confused. This should be a 0. That's what it's trying to show you. Which of the 4 options is the gradient of this line? What is the gradient or slope of this line segment? So because this is completely flat, I mean, you can kind of, a lot of you will know that this is 0, but if you think of it in terms of the formula, the change in x is 1, 2, 3, 4, but the change in y doesn't go up at all. So 0 over 4 is 0. And so the correct answer is B. If a line was straight up vertically, right, then we say the gradient is undefined or the gradient is infinite. So that's the one where a lot of students kind of mix them up. But if the line goes straight up, then we say m is undefined, or another way of saying that is m is infinite. But this scenario, m is 0. It's just completely flat. Okay, that's not too bad. That's not too bad. I want to know, let's have a look at this over here. Now, I will show you how we can use the formula for AB. So we've got this straight line AB, and if I want to find the gradient, all I need to do is use this formula algebraically. I could count the blocks. Some of you might count the blocks, but for now I'm going to use algebra, and I'm just going to go 3 minus 1 over 6 minus 2. And the gradient then would be 2 over 4 or a half. And so we can say that the gradient, we would actually say it like this, the gradient of AB is a half. I want you guys to find me the gradient of the green one. So what I'm going to call the gradient of EF. Find me the gradient of EF, and I'll just make the points that's F is minus 5, 1, and E is 2 minus 2. Find me the gradient of the green line segment. So I'll just wait for your answers in the chat. Okay, so let's have a look. If I can choose either of the points. I'm going to start with the minus 2, and then I'm going to take away 1. And then on the bottom, which is the x, I go 2 minus minus 5. So what gradient will that give me? Well, it's going to be minus 3 on top, and then 2 minus minus 5. Well, that's going to be 2 plus 5. So the gradient of the green line EF is equal to minus 3 over 7. And that makes sense, because if you think about what it's saying, let's just check this out. If I go down by 3, 1, 2, 3, and then I go across by 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, you notice that I'm still on the line, which is great news for gradient. All right, give me a score out of 10 for how you feel about gradient now. 10 is perfect, 0 is no understanding, 5 is sort of understanding, but still needs some help. I want to know how well you feel you understand gradient to see if I can move on. I want to know how well you understand gradient to see if I can move on. Okay, cool. All right. So as we move on from gradient, another important idea in analytical geometry is the equation of a straight line. And the formula that we use, sometimes we use that. Some teachers also like this one. You often see students learning how to use this sort of form, although they normally break it back into this original form. But for now, we're just going to do that. The m in this formula is the gradient of the line. Does anybody know what the c value stands for? in the formula of a straight line? If we think of a straight line, let me draw another one just to kind of, there's my straight line. We know that m would be its gradient, but what is c going to be? What do we think c is going to be? Yeah, it's just the y-intercept. So this is the y-intercept. Visually, the y-intercept is this point here, where the straight line crosses the y-axis. So to figure out the equation of a straight line, you need the y-intercept, but you also need the gradient. So that's what we're going to look at and the different methods we can use to do that. But before we do that, let's just check if you can do this multiple choice question. What is the y-intercept of the following line? What is, you choose A, B, C, or D? Now, you told me that it must be, it's the y-intercept is there, but which option, A, B, C, or D matches? Well, the y-intercept have to have an x-coordinate of 0, but then what is the actual y value? 1, 2, 3, 4, so it's going to be that. And that would be C. So the correct answer is C, and I see Siamtanda, Tsapan, Silikane. Everyone agrees. Awesome. What is the y-intercept for that straight line? What is the y-intercept? Which option? A, B, C, or D? Yeah, let's have a look at the chat. What's coming through? I think we all know that the x-coordinate has to be 0, but then the y-coordinate would be 2. And that would correspond to B. Okay, I'm upgrading this question. I want to know what is the equation of the straight line that is here. Now, there's one extra point over here that might be helpful. I want you to work out what the equation of the straight line is, bearing in mind that the standard form of a straight line is y equals mx plus c. What is the equation of the straight line? You already worked out what the y-intercept was, but you're going to have to work out a little bit something more. So when you've got your answer, just pop it in the chat. I feel like the important bit is the gradient. If I could just work out the gradient, life would be so good. So I know this point is 0, 2. So maybe I should just go 2 minus 4, and then 0 minus minus 3. which gives me minus 2 over 3. So what is the equation of my straight line? Ooh, I see Sange and Simtanda have popped in an answer, and I agree with them. It's minus 2 over 3x plus 2. Yeah, so, and if I look at my graph, let's have a quick logic check. If I go down by 2 and I go across by 3, I'm staying on the line. So that's the gradient. I can see the y-intercept is 2, and it's a negative gradient for the straight line. Okay, that was pretty good. Ooh, this is let's not do that one. Okay, I want you work out for me what is the equations, not the slope. The slope is too easy. I want you to find me the equation of the line passing through these 2 points. So ignore these things, not relevant. All I want to know is what is the equation of the straight line going through here. You know that it's y equals mx plus c. I want to see, can you work that out? Now, this is a bit trickier because the c value, you're going to need to use something else to help you find the c value. But I just want to see how many of you know some techniques for doing that. And then I will show you, and then after the break, we'll go into it in more detail. Let's see what you can do. Find me the equation of that straight line. Okay, so let's start with the gradient. So I have the gradient as a half, but now I need to figure out what c is, and I need some help from you guys. What should I do to figure out c if I don't have a drawing to look at? Who has some ideas for me? There's 2 different methods that teachers normally use, but I want to see what you guys can remember from grade 10 or what you've done in class recently. So what should I do? Substitute. So Sange, that is definitely one of the methods we can use. Siamtanda, that is the other one. Okay, so I'm going to show you both methods. So the one method is to substitute in. So you know that this is a half x plus c, but in order to know what the c is, I'm going to sub the point 9, 2 into that equation. So that's called the substituting method. The other way of doing it is to use this formula that I mentioned earlier on, which is y minus y1 equals m x minus x1. So this is another method. And in this case, you put in a half here, and then over here you go x. Now you have to choose a point as well. So just like we had 9, 2, I'm going to choose 9, 2 again. I don't have to use 9, 2. I could have used 3 minus 1, but I'm just going for it. And then we just go x minus 9 here. And over here we go y minus 2. And I'll come back to that method in a moment. For this method, all I do is sub the 9, 2 in. So we know that this is x and this is y. So where the y is, there's going to be a 2. Where the x is, there's going to be a 9. And then I'm left with my c value. Now, in order to get what the C value is, I'm going to have to move some stuff around. I'm going to say 2 equals 9 over 2 plus C. And then I'm going to say, well, 9 over 2 is, I can move it to the other side. So I go 2 minus 9 over 2 is C, and that would be 4.5. So I would get 2 minus 4.5 or minus 2.5. And so then I would know that the C value is minus 2.5, and I would have my equation. In this other method, where I basically wrote in the gradient, and then I just used a point, and I put 9 for where the x is. So it's almost like that's x1 and that's y1. I still have to do a bit more work, but it's not too far away from being done. So if I do that, I will get that. I'm just distributing the half into the bracket. And then I have to move the 2 across. So I have a half x minus 9 over 2 plus 2. But then minus 4.5 plus 2, I'm going to get a half x minus 2.5. And this makes me very, very happy because I can see that the C value is exactly the same. Now, both of these methods are completely fine. You can use either of them, but I just wanted to show you how they work before we go off and have a break now. And then in the second half of the lesson, you will choose what method you want to use. I'd like to know from the class, a score out of 10, how well do you understand either of these methods? You choose one. How well do you understand the method? And are there any questions that you would like to ask before we take a break? Our halftime break. And you can pop your hand up and just ask an audio question if that's easier. Or you can put it in the chat if that is more your cup of tea. Or you can just vote. Okay. So what we're going to do in the second half of the lesson is we're going to apply this method to a couple of questions. Once I see that you're comfortable finding the equations of straight lines, I will start to blend things together based on what I see. But we do know that every lesson needs a break. And so we have reached that time. So I would love it if you could join me by standing up, turning on your cameras, and let's just take some nice deep breaths. And we're going to breathe in when my arms go up. We're going to hold, and then we're going to drop. We're going to breathe out when my arms go down. Okay, in 3, 2, 1. Breathe in. Okay, so you've got some breath. Let's just loosen up a little bit. So shake out the arms. Shake out this arm, get nice and loose, like you're one of those blow-up statues kind of moving around in the wind. And then shake out your legs. So shake them out. Let us roll our shoulders. Just look ahead in front of you. Just roll your shoulders. And roll them back, then roll them forward. Okay, then out to the side. Let's do small circles going forward. Small circles going back. Okay, then let's do a tricep stretch. So up like this. And then let's switch to the other side. And then let's just give it one more shake just to loosen up, to make sure that our body is kind of just, unwinding for a second, taking our mind off maths and onto just going into our body. Okay, last thing we do on the break is we get our heart rates up, we get blood moving through our system. We know this helps us function better. So what I love to do is jumping jacks. Make sure you don't whack anything in your room. And we're going to do 12 of them in 3, 2, 1. Let's go. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and we are done with the exercise part. Did you enjoy that? Give me an emoticon. And maybe you didn't even enjoy it, but did you feel the difference? Could you feel something in your body changing based on doing some movement? Let me know in the chat how you felt. Or if you're like, I don't respond to movement, my body is just not like that. Let me know. And then while you're making your comments, today's riddle is the following. You go to the doctor because you are ill, and he prescribes you with 3 pills and tells you to take them every half an hour. How long do the pills last? So how long do the pills last? That is your riddle for today. Japan, what do you think? Cylinder? Silicane? What do you think? Amelia? Mussolini? Who feels like they can crack the case open here? I want to see people put some answers into the chat. Is it half an hour? Is it an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours, 2.5 hours? What do we think the answer is? Siamtanda, 90 minutes. Who else has an idea? Silikani, an hour. Okay. Anyone else? Hour and a half. Okay. Anyone for half an hour or 2 hours? So if you think about going to the doctor, you take pill 1, and then let's say you go and take pill 2, and then you take pill 3. Now, you take pill 1 straight away, so that is 30 minutes. But then another 30. So actually, you take the first pull at time 0. Then after 30 minutes, you take pull 2. After another 30 minutes, you take pull 3, and you run out of pulls. So how long does it take? Ladies and gentlemen, you are out of pulls after 60 minutes or 1 hour. So congratulations to Silicane who picked that up. It was a bit of a sneaky riddle, and it's all in the wording. But I thought you seem to enjoy these riddles. But so I went and found some more. Yeah. Let me know. Did you enjoy that? How did you feel when you found out the answer? Was it dum dum dum? Let me know with an emoticon in the chat. Okay, then while those emoticons are coming through, I want to start with a multiple choice question. I want you to tell me which of these 4 options is the equation of this straight line here. The point is 2, 5 over here. The point over here is 4, 9. Which of these 4 points, which of these 4 straight lines represents the pink straight line? Put your vote in the chat. So just to remind you some important basics, we know mx plus c, we know we need to find n, and then eventually we need to find c. And one of these four options is going to be for you. Which one is going to be for you? So I get, for the first part, 2x plus c. I want to know which of the four options do you think it is? I'll give you some time to lock in your answer. Okay, so I'm going to use, oh, that was a bit silent, wasn't it? I'm going to use the method here where I sub in a point. So I'm going to take the point 2, 5, and I'm subbing it in. And where there is an x, there's a 2. Where there's a y, there's a 5. And now I need to find c. Now, 2 times 2 is going to give me 4. But when I move that 4 to the other side, it's going to become a minus. And my c is 1, which means that the answer that I think is correct, if there is one, is 2x plus 1. Is there a 2x plus 1? Yes, there is. The answer is C. Okay. Now, I see Simtando had their answer come through, but I didn't see. Are there any questions or comments about this one? Let's give a second for you guys to ask any questions or comments. The equation of this line is 2x plus 1, and so you would see like this one over here. That's the y-intercept would be the 1. Okay, well, let's keep swimming. What is the equation of the straight line passing through these two? Oh, that's the slope. I want the equation. Yeah. What is the equation of the straight line passing through the point 1, minus 4, and 3, 2? Off you go. Go do that. What is the equation of the line passing through those 2 points? It seems like finding the gradient is always a good place to start. And then we can try and figure out what C is. I'll use the different method this time, the other method. Just so I'm kind of being fair to everyone. Now, I get a gradient of 3, but in this other method, the way you do it is you say, look, you've got your gradient of 3, but you need to choose a point. Now, I think the easier of the 2 points is 3, 2. Now, the 2 goes with the y, and this goes with that. Now, which of these options is going to be correct? Well, I suppose I have to multiply this out. So that's 3x minus 9 And then this is still just y minus 2. But when the minus 2 comes across, it becomes plus 2, which means this must be minus 7. The correct answer for this is that one there, 3x minus 7. And you could have easily done it the other way and you would have got the same answer. Give me a thumbs up if everything is good and you're happy to move on, no problems. Give me a thumbs down if you are uncertain about something and you would like to ask a question. Okay, this next one is a little bit more sneaky, but I'm going to chuck it in here because you are the S class and we want to also challenge you a little bit. Which of the following coordinates lie on the straight line y equals 2x minus 1? So which of the following, these are all coordinates. You have a straight line, let's say 2x minus 1, so it goes through minus 1, and it has a gradient of 2. Now, you're not going to be able to do this by looking at the drawing. You're going to have to know some algebra. How do I check which of these points is on the, oh, I shouldn't have done that one. Straight line. Maybe you can give each other a tip. What should I do to check? Does anybody know? How do I check if a point is on a line? If I've got the equation of the line and I want to check, does that point go in? How do I check whether or not 3, 7 is on the line? Anybody have any ideas? You sub in, yes. So let's take 3, 7. And what I say is I make it the left-hand side and the right-hand side. So if I sub 3, which side does it go? X is 3 go in. It goes to the right-hand side, and it would be 2 times 3 minus 1. The left-hand side would just be 7 because there's a 7 over here. Is 7 equal to 2 times 3 minus 1? No, because 2 times 3 minus 1 is actually just going to be 5, and 7 does not equal to 5. So this is not on the line. If we sub in the point 2, 5, well, then I will get a 5 on the left-hand side. What is 2 times 2 minus 1? Nope, that's not equal. So that's not on the line. Okay, let's try 2, 3. If I go and I put a 3 here for the y, then I go 2 times 2 minus 1. Is that equal? 4 minus 1 is 3. Yep, that is equal. So this is the correct answer. I can try D, but it says, let's just check. So if I go to 5 for y, and then I go 2 times 6 minus 1, well, then that would be 11. 11 does not equal 5. So the correct answer is C. So how do you check whether or not a point lies on the line? You sub it into the equation, and you see if the equation remains true. Give me a sense of how well you understood that explanation. 0 for no understanding, 10 for perfect, 5 for sort of, 7 or 8 for pretty good. How well did you understand that idea? Okay, fantastic. Because that's an important idea. It comes up again and again and again. Let me find you something with a bit of, oh, I like this one. Okay. Which of the following sketches could represent the straight line 4x minus 5y equals 20? Now, why is this a little bit weird or a little bit different? I'd love to hear from the class. Why do you think I've got to match this formula, which looks a bit weird, with a graph here? What would I do first to help me kind of find my bearings or get kind of like get organized? Sangha has said, and so has Tanda, it's not in standard form. You are spot on. we need to change it to standard form. And there's a couple of ways we could do that. But I think the first thing I was going to do is I was going to move the 20 across to this side. And then I was going to move that across. Now, I still need to deal with this 5. How do I deal with the 5? It looks like it's almost there, but not quite. I think the way to get rid of the 5 is divide both sides by 5. Then I'm going to get a y, and then I'm going to get 4 over 5x minus 4. And so the equation of the straight line that's the non-standard form is this. Within the straight line, we know that the gradient is 4 over 5, and the y-intercept is minus 4. Which option, A, B, C, or D, will match this straight line? What are the two possibilities? Is it A, B, C, or D? So the thing that stands out for me automatically is that the y-intercept is negative. And so it either has to be this one or it has to be that one. It can't be this one because both of these have positive y-intercepts. So I have to decide between B and D. Now, how am I going to decide between these two? What's going to help me? Oh, you know what it is? This is, even though it's a fraction, it's a positive gradient. This is a negative gradient, so it can't be that one. Even though it's a fractional gradient, the correct answer must be B. And I see everyone else in the chat has got that. Okay, awesome. So we're learning about non-standard form as well here. Okay, last question of tonight. What is the equation of the straight line that goes through minus 3, 5, and 5 minus 8? I want you to work that out, and then we are going to call it a day for today. I'll grab some water. Well, you do that. Okay. What are people suggesting here? Minus 8 minus 5. I always like to do little drawings just to keep everything. 5 minus 3. So that would be, and that would be 5. So I get my gradient as minus 3 over 8. So it's a negative line. It probably looks, I don't know what the drawing looks like, but it probably is going to look something, well, maybe not like that, but we'll find out what C is now. Now I'm going to use the first method. So I know that I want C. And I'm going to choose what point? I think I'm just going to choose -3, -5. Now, what I have to watch out for is -3/8 times -3. Watch out for silly mistakes there. -3 times -3 is +9. So, okay, that's not too bad. That's 9/8 plus c. But I still haven't got c by itself. So I might need my calculator here. So -5 minus another one, so -6. So -6 and 1/8. Now, I don't see a -6 and 1/8, but I'm sure that there's a connection. Which option do you think is correct for the equation of the straight line? Now, I don't see that, but obviously we can rewrite this as an improper fraction. So what would that be? 6 times 8 is 48, plus 1 is 49. So 49/8. Is there anything with a 49? Okay, so it's not this. It's not that. It's not this. And so the correct answer would be C. And so we've worked our way all the way up to equations of straight lines with fractions. Okay, everyone.